before the course. The Astros have not faced the Phillies since 2017. And of course, Aaron Nola almost threw a perfect game. And thankfully, Dusty Baker didn't decide to pinch hit for Yordan Alvarez because he was the one that broke it up. And unfortunately, the Astros didn't get a lot of hits, didn't get a lot of offense. They got shut out. And the Astros pitching gave up a lot of home runs. And we'll talk about this. And playoffs are coming on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast that starts now.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, when you are in denial like I am, according to David, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive. Always Stros. We're not in denial, bro. We got this. We got this.
And that's a river in Egypt, as far as I know, on this show. So anyway, let's go and talk about this game. I mean, it's a team that we've had a lot of history with. The Phillies, there's a lot of teams, players on that team that we've seen before. Chris Davinsky, Garrett Stubbs. And so there's a lot of, and also Phil Maton's brothers on the team. So there's a lot of kind of, hey, how you doing? How you been? So this was definitely a big game for the Phillies as they are now currently celebrating making the playoffs for the first time since 2011. So congratulations to the Phillies. We've seen the Mariners with the end of big drought. Now we've seen the Phillies do that as well. So I know the Mariners was probably the biggest drought in history. Not history, but
yeah. It was the longest drought going. I think baseball, maybe, I don't know, it's sports, but in baseball at least.
Right. So, guys, before we get too far into this, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. If it's on YouTube, why haven't you subscribed? We're going to be doing a lot of maybe pre-games, maybe little mini episodes leading up to playoffs, maybe some pre-game shows at Minute Maid Park. We'll be doing some stuff creative on YouTube. So go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Go and give us a like while you're there. And go ahead and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check out the Locked On Astros podcast. So, yeah, a lot of people are saying this game was not fun. There wasn't that much fun about this game, but I will tell you what was the best part of the game was the 6th inning by Lance McCullers Jr. He looked like against the Dodgers, he was just throwing the curveballs, and his stuff was unhittable in his 6th inning. I think he knew that was his final. I mean, of course, it was his final start, but final inning of the regular season. And he's like, you know what, dude? I'm going to go out there. I'm just going to turn my cheat mode on in the video game and just go out there and dominate them. And he dominated them, and he just made them look like they're little leaguers. And overall, he allowed it was only one hit, I believe.
It was a Kyle Schwarber leadoff home run.
The home run.
First inning home run, yeah.
But he allowed 6 hits overall and 1 earned run, 1 walk. But he looked good overall outside that leadoff home run, and his ERA is down to 2.27 overall on the season. So I'm not worried about Lance McCullers. I'm not worried about Justin Verlander. I'm a little worried about Framber Valdez, but we could talk about that later.
Well, here's the thing, because this kind of dovetails into what you're talking about with Lance McCullers, and I've been thinking about this because I've been saying all along, I would like to see Verlander, Valdez, and then McCullers go in Game 3. With the way McCullers is pitching at home lately, Eric, since coming back, and just overall, I think McCullers would be a perfect Game 2 starter, and Framber Valdez would be a perfect Game 3 starter. Now, hold on, don't negate me right off the bat. Let me make my case, okay? The reason why I'm saying that is because if Lance McCullers is in the zone right now at home and he's pitching well at home, you don't lose anything pitching Framber Valdez in game 3. Because if you can take game 1 and 2, putting Framber Valdez in game 3 would be absolutely nails on the road. I think whoever is pitching the best at home, I think should get the nod. Now, Framber Valdez more than likely will be that number 2 starter because he's had the season he's had. But I think a lot of times with pitching, more so than hitting, you have to go with the hotter hand. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibilities to flip Valdez and McCullers. Do I think it'll happen? I don't think it'll happen, but it would make sense why they did it. So I think there is something to be talked about there, but I still think we're going to see JV, Framber, McCullers, Javier is the order I think they're going to be going in.
So if you're looking at what Framber Valdez has done at home this season, he's got a 3.76 ERA at home versus away. He's got a 2.27 ERA. So that would go a little bit towards your point. But if you're looking at what traditionally teams like to do in the playoffs, they like to have their righty go, their ace, and then they like to kind of piggyback their lefty kind of in the middle. Piggyback's probably not the right word, but they like to put their kind of change up kind of the look.
You mean right, left, right is what you're
Yeah.
saying. What you're saying. I mean, I get that, but I'm sitting here looking up McCullers. Know what he is home and road. I just know that he's very good lately. But if you look at, he is 4-1. He's got a 2.38 ERA right now. Let's see his home games. He is 2-0 at home with a 1.50 ERA, Eric, and on the road he's 2-1 with a 3.57 ERA. He's only given up 4 runs at home. He's given up 7 runs on the road, and he's issued a couple more walks, but it looks like overall his whip is better, 1.0. His strikeouts per 9 is better on the road, but this is a very small sample size. It's only 5 games total, right? But my question is this. If the offense is sputtering, which I don't like seeing. Now, Aaron Nola, you got to give him credit, okay? I saw this kid pitch in college. I saw this kid play alongside Alex Bregman. I saw 2 or 3 of Aaron Nola's starts in college. I was like, this guy's going to be a Cy Young winner one day. He was that good at LSU under Paul Maneri and Alex Bregman. They were both teammates. I mean, you got to tip your hat to him. Sometimes a pitcher has it. And when you haven't faced someone, you're not familiar with them, it's easy to do. And who knows how much energy or how much drive the Astros have these last 3 games. That may have a little bit to do with it. I know people are like, oh, it's no excuse. You're a pro. You have to play every game. And, you have to play 162. But how much mentally were they in this game? And it didn't seem like, they were playing, but like someone literally asked, were they trying to let the Phillies win on purpose? No, they weren't. Guys, let's keep it clean on the chat. Please stop cussing. If you don't, I'm going to put you in timeout for 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right. I don't have one for Eric Huysman, so I'm going to pull this for Brett real quick. And I'm totally kidding with this, but yeah, I need to speak to your manager. What the heck are you doing pulling your regulars out when you're in the middle, like somebody's throwing a perfect game against you? I'm
Dusty
totally
Baker.
kidding. I'm totally kidding. I know. Before the game, he said that he was going to pull out some of the regulars, and this is something that he's going to be doing for the final 3 games. It's going to be kind of like a spring training situation, but it was just kind of funny. Like you're trying to get get a hit, get something going on to break up this perfect game, and then you take out Altuve, you take out Pena, you take out a Bregman, and then luckily they didn't take out Alvarez because he was able to get that first hit. Then the Astros got another hit, but unfortunately they just couldn't generate any more offense in that situation. So, but definitely it was kind of ironic that that happened at that time. And who would have bet that that would have happened in that situation? So speaking of betting, let's take a second to talk about Bet Online.
Yeah, definitely. And then I want to get to Graham Featherstone's point here. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your football betting info this season. If you want to bet that the Texans are going to win next week, go ahead and try. But BetOnline will get you covered on who you should and shouldn't. Bet on the latest player developments, team matchups, news podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information, live betting up to minute scores. See, basically, if you go to any other betting source, you're going to be like the Texans, where you have potential to win, but you just can't get that fourth quarter touchdown. You can't win. So the fastest and easiest way to do this is go to betonline.net, check in on all your favorite games, events, and your MLB, MMA, boxing, or golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts.
All right, guys, the playoffs are coming. Do you have your playoff tickets? If you don't, you need to go to Simple Seats to get your tickets now. They're going to be going like everybody wants to go to playoff games. So, Brett, tell us
They're
about Simple Seats.
they're going like hotcakes. You
Yeah, that's
can't.
what I'm going to say.
They do have ALDS tickets game one. I've looked at them and they are very reasonably priced. What's cool about Simple Seats is they don't tack on any fees. There's no 20% charge at the end. There's no surprise charge when you check out. I've been using them since 2021 and I've never gone wrong. I've always gotten the best service, never had any issues with my tickets. It's simple. The web page is easy. You open it up, you look for it, whether it's Astros, Texans, Dynamo, A&M, UT, U of H, and more. Comedians, different types of entertainment in Houston, they've got you covered. If you're from out of town and you're coming into Houston for a game, check out simpleseats.com. They have zone seating specials. Fans can save even more. The zone seats, we divide the venue into zones so you don't have to waste your time searching endlessly for seats. You pick the zone, we pick the seat. You get the best possible price. And if you want to pick your exact seat, you can do that as well. So if you're looking to go to a sporting event in Houston, make sure you check out simpleseats.com to see how much you can save. Ditch the ticket fees and check out simpleseats.com. The next time you're looking to go to a Houston sports event, use the code LOCKEDON10 to save $10 off your first purchase of $50 or more. Simple Seats, better prices, no fees. It's that simple.
All right. So a
All right.
lot of people are wondering like when the playoffs games, the times are going to be. I don't know. And I actually had to put in for my orange fever already. So for next Tuesday. So I don't know if I'm going to put in for my orange fever on Thursday, but I definitely put in for Tuesday just in case it is a day game because that day there are 4 games, I believe. And so I put in for my orange fever already for Tuesday. So, guys, if just knowing the situation, if you've got your tickets from Simple Seats or any other place, you might want to just start preparing
Well,
for early game.
there are more discreet ways to do that, and we won't talk about that on air. I won't reveal my secrets, but I want to tackle this because Graham brings up something that I've been thinking about lately. He says, "Is it concerning?" He's asking us that our offense is dead going into the playoffs, facing either the Jays and Springer or the Mariners, who I think will be playing possessed since they are in the playoffs now. Eric, I do think it is somewhat of a concern. Now, does this team have the potential in any game to break out 10 runs, 12 runs, even 6 runs? You know what I'm saying? Because we have the pitching, but you're going mano a mano against these teams. You only have a few games to do this. You don't have a whole week to make something up. I think that this offense has got to hit a different gear, and maybe they flip a switch come ALDS. Remember when we faced Oakland and they had our number like 2 years ago in the 2020 season, and everybody just thought Oakland was going to just dismantle us. And what do? We went in and we changed the narrative. We've got our offense has got to change their narrative right now, and the recency bias that we're not hitting, we're not very hot right now. How much of a concern are you that the offense is not really performing on a consistent basis?
They have 104 wins. I know they've done a lot of that with pitching and with timely hitting. So I think as long as the pitching does what they need to do, I think the hitting's going to come alive in a playoff. The key is going to be the lineups. How is Dusty Baker going to adapt to the matchups? And I really like that lineup the other day with Bregman batting second. I mean, there's something about Bregman batting second I really, really like. I mean, Pena does a good job there. I know he went hitless today, but a lot of people's went hitless today. David Hensley came in and got a hit today, and he came in as a replacement for Bregman. But am I a little scared? Yes. But if you look at the Jays pitching, yes, they do have a few guys that are a little bit scary, and they're the one team that the Astros have a losing record against this season at 2-4. But it's a small sample size. So I think that I will still take the Astros starting pitching over their starting pitching. But like I've said before, what happened in a 162 regular season does not dictate what happens in a 5-game series. Anything can really happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is you know what you have in your lineup, you know what they can produce. The cool thing is Bradish from the Orioles isn't going to be there, so that gives me some security. And I mean, if you and I are discussing this, Eric, and fans are concerned about their offense, I promise you that the Astros know that they need to put cricket numbers on the board. They can't have, 15 swings and misses that Aaron Nola produced. They can't let a pitcher go out and have a career outing because you may have a pitcher that gives up a long ball. You may have something that happens, an error on the base pass or a throwing error, and someone scores a run or two. Tonight, the Phillies got 2 back-to-back solo shots late in the game. Like, where did that come from? The first one just went out. And I'm like, hold on, Jose Urquidy, are you auditioning for the playoffs? What is going on? And I just thought to myself, that's why I want Hunter Brown in there for 1 inning, and I want Urquidy and Garcia to be, if they're in there, I need them to be as a starting role or a piggyback role in a winning situation. I don't want Urquidy in a piggyback role in a losing situation. And let me tell you why. Eric, he's given up 29 home runs this year. I think maybe it was 30 tonight after the second one. He's given up a lot of long balls. And I know he's the only guy on this roster that has 3 wins in the World Series. But it's, what have you done for me lately? Because you can go with history, you can go with all that stuff all you want. But if the player doesn't perform in the playoffs, nobody's going to care what they did in the past.
Yeah, but if you're going to try out Jose Urquidy in the bullpen, why not try him today? The Astros weren't going to win this game anyway. They're already down
Right.
1-0. So the 2 home runs, that didn't matter. And what we saw today is what I was worried about. I said, okay, I don't know if it was on this show or Talking Stros yesterday, but I said that this would be audition to see if Urquidy would be an asset in the bullpen in the playoffs. And I know it was only 2 innings. He only gave up the 2 hits, but the 2 hits were long balls. And the first inning, I think he looked pretty good, pretty decent. But second inning, he gave up the 2 home runs. And that's what Urquidy is going to do out of the bullpen. He is a starter. I don't think that he's going to be very effective in that role. So Luis Garcia, who knows what he would do in that role. But I still think that the Astros are tempted to look at that maybe in like having a starter in that role. But Phil Maton didn't really do himself any favors today. Yes, he didn't give up any runs, but he walked 2 batters, gave up a hit, loaded the bases, and I was totally expected them to pinch hit for his brother there, just to kind of give him that experience of having brother versus brother, because he threw 30-something pitches. So he almost threw 30 pitches, but he may not be available for the rest of the series. So that would have been a perfect opportunity to have brother versus brother in this situation. But Maton, I know I've been talking about playoff Maton, but I don't know. He just didn't look too consistent today. He did have 2 strikeouts, and he did get that last strikeout, and he was pumped as he can be.
But this is not the Houston Astros team that they can be, and we all know that. And again, I don't know where some of these guys are, and maybe every time I said the bottom line, I'm going to just add something, and that's the bottom line because Wheelhouse said so. That's what I'm going to start
Oh,
saying.
please
It's been
don't, please don't,
requested.
please don't.
Hey, what?
Oh.
What? Oh, come on.
Who is
What?
that? So I can ban that person.
No, seriously. Dude, don't make me go there. It's all good. If I see it, what?
Your head's
What's
getting
wrong
too
with
big.
you? No, my
Your
head's not.
head's
No,
getting too big.
dude, whatever. Hey, let me tell you something. Hey, listen, y'all. Listen. You know why I have a big ego about this show? Because you guys, the listeners, like have taken us to heights that we've never been as a show. I mean, we are literally, and I'm not going to tell you a number right now, but we are 3/4 of the way to our goal for the year. When we hit that goal, I'm going to freaking go nuts on air and I'm going to brag the hell about it. I'm going to make a shirt and everything. It's going to be awesome. I'm actually going to make 3 shirts. I'm going to make one and make 3, and I'm going to give 3 shirts away to celebrate us getting our goal this year in 2022. You guys have been so freaking awesome. You have hung with us on the times when I've gone solo and Eric's been out of the chair, the times when I've been out of the chair and Eric's gone solo, all the guests that Eric has brought on, all the guests that I have brought on. But we do that and we're energized to do that because you guys, the listeners, help us. We want to get to 5,000 subs. I want to get to 5,000 subs before the first ALDS game. Before the first ALDS game, we are less than 200 away from 5,000 subs. So help us get there. But seriously, that's the bottom line because H-Town Wheelhouse says so.
Alrighty. I'm going to roll my eyes every time. No, that's fine.
That's fine. You can do it.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and do this bottom line, dude. So I know fans at the game, nobody wants to have a perfect game thrown against you. I kind of threw this in on Twitter and on Facebook and everything. But is there a part of you as a fan at the game that's like, you know what? It'd be cool to see a perfect game thrown against you, or no? I mean, put your answer in the chat. I mean, I'm not me. I would be like, no, I don't want to be part of that history. But at the same time, how many times do you get to be at a game where somebody throws a perfect game? That's what I want to ask.
Okay. While our fans are answering it, I guess a perfect game would be cool to see. But I need it, if it's against us, I need it to be like Max Scherzer in his 42nd year as a legend. Everybody knows he's going to be first ballot Hall of Famer. I need to see like Jacob deGrom, his final start in Houston as a perfect game or something like that. It needs to be something historic and absolute legend of the game. No offense, Aaron Nola is a great pitcher.
Jeez.
But I'm sorry. I don't want a perfect game unless it's like some old head, pitcher that's been going at it, some stalwart of the game. And I'm like, I got to see that guy. Like, if I could have seen Greg Maddux throw a perfect game against the Astros, I would have welcomed it, period. No offense. I don't want to see a perfect game against the Astros. I want to see the Astros absolutely obliterate that pitcher and crush their soul because that is my team. And I'm a baseball purist, but I'm also more of a diehard Astros guy than that. And so, how many of us was working on the jinx? I threw up something. Brian McTaggart threw up something. I think everybody was trying to jinx that.
I was
No-hitter
trying to
perfect
do
game.
something different and nobody participated. I'm actually mad at people, but I was trying
What
to
did
do
you
a
do?
multilingual jinx. I said, in your native language, go ahead and put he's throwing a perfect game.
What is what is doing a jinx in different languages like? What?
Just doing something different.
Yeah, that is definitely different. So hey, real quick, Jesse asked us this. He says, and I think we addressed this, but we can address this now. Who do we prefer, Blue Jays or Mariners against the Astros?
Well, I think before we do that, I do want to mention the Rays. I, I'm never going to say that any team is purposely losing, but I do want to say that the Rays, it is kind of ironic that they are kind of falling. Like it looks like they're kind of maybe trying to avoid playing the Astros, and so they're trying to play the Guardians instead. So that's my
Why would you, dude? I think the Guardians are just as dangerous right now as the
well,
Guardians.
Okay.
have been very
Yeah.
hot. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
Well,
yeah,
look,
but you hear what I'm saying. I think that there's a better chance of the Rays beating the Guardians than the Astros at this point because the Rays won one game against the Astros. So
right. I see what you're saying. I don't know, man. The Rays are constructed perfectly for the offseason. They're not constructed perfectly. I mean, they're not for the regular season. They're not constructed so strongly for the postseason, even though they did go to the World Series in 2020, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you have coming out of the top part of the bracket, the Guardians. Oh, thank you, Samuel. The Guardians are, I think, the team that is the most dangerous, that the Yankees should fear the most, because I think they easily come out of the first round, out of the wild card, and then they go into New York, and no telling. I mean, what if Aaron Judge doesn't hit any home runs, and then all of a sudden you got the Guardians who have confidence, who have moxie, and have nothing to lose.
right.
That's going to be a scary matchup. The great thing is, Eric, for the ALCS, if the Astros get there, they play the first two games at home, obviously. So that bodes well, and that forces them, if they've got their Tristan McKenzie, their Cal Quantrill, those guys that are hot at home, it may force them to pitch those guys in one of the first two games where you don't have to face them in Cleveland. So that may end up working out for you in the end. But if I had a choice between the Mariners and the Blue Jays, usually I go with the Mariners. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If the Mariners are playing right now, like they are just absolutely world beaters out there. I don't know, Eric. I think it's a toss up. Here's what I want. I'm not going to answer that question with who I would want to face. I want the offensive Astros to show up. And I think if the offensive Astros show up, it doesn't matter who we play, if I'm being honest.
Right. And I'm looking at the Blue Jays lineup from today's game. The Blue Jays won 5-1. They have Springer, Bichette, Guerrero Jr., Captain Kirk. It's not Captain Kirk, but I'm just saying Captain Kirk. Teoscar Hernandez, Matt Chapman, Tapia, Whit Merrifield, and then Biggio. So that's a interesting lineup. So looking at their overall record, they are 91-69 on the season. So I think that team is dangerous. I mean, Barrios, he has a 5.23 ERA on season, but he has 12 wins. So they have some good pitching. So that team is dangerous. And like we talked about yesterday, they do have George Springer, but the pitching that the Mariners will throw at you, I'm not going to say it rivals the Astros. I think the Astros starting pitching is the most dominant in the American League, but the Mariners, I think, is the second best if you're looking at what they can throw at you. And so that is a little bit scary. The offense, it can be hot. We have to see how healthy their young star can be, Julio Rodriguez. But overall, that team can be really scary for any team in playoffs, and they can get hot and they can outpitch you, but they can struggle offensively just like any other team. So
Well, baseball is going to baseball. Things are going to happen that aren't supposed to happen. Things are going to happen that are supposed to happen. I mean, what am I doing? I sound like Dusty Baker here. I sound like a mix. I'm a mix between Dusty Baker and John Madden. I remember, I've got to bring this up because I remember John Madden. I was watching a Monday Night Football game. It was the Cowboys versus the Giants. And I remember John Madden had the telestrator out. And he's like, no, look, I want to show you guys that work hard on this team and guys who don't. He literally, they had a view of the offensive lineman standing there, and they're like, look at this guy. And he's circling the backs of these guys. He goes, this guy has sweat all the way down below his knees. He's working harder than this guy over here. And he's like going to all the players that are showing sweat. He's like, if they're sweating more, that means they're working more. And I was like, he's literally going off on this. Anyways, that's where I was going with this whole Dusty Baker thing. But here's what we're not talking about. And here's what I think the rest of MLB knows, the professional players in the clubhouse and the Astros. There's not a single team out there, Eric, that has more playoff experience than the Houston Astros. And we know that in the playoffs, experience matters, okay? That's why I wonder how much. I mean, Hunter Brown, I think, is the type of kid that can turn it on, but I don't think you're going to see many inexperienced guys in there helping the team too much. I don't think you're going to see much of a David Hensley type of player in there, if at all. But the Astros have so much experience, they can go into this playoffs, and we have McCullers and we have Verlander and we have Valdez, who's had the year he's had, and we have Christian Javier. Last year, if you give me this year's pitching rotation and put it on last year's team, Eric, I think there's a chance that we can beat the Braves. I really do. I really do. And I know we didn't hit that great, but if you take this team and put them in last year's playoffs, I think you see a different story. The playoff expertise this year is going to make a difference. Mark my words.
All right. So definitely, I think one thing the Astros will be lacking this year is Carlos Correa. That is something that the Astros are going to be lacking. But I think that if we have a different Bregman this year, he is not the 2021 version, not the 2020 version. I think this is a more confident, a more arrogant Bregman. And I think that we have a healthy Alvarez. That's something that he wasn't really last year, all throughout the playoffs as well. So I think that the team overall, if healthy, can be pretty good. The thing that I'm concerned about right now is Trey Mancini. He has not looked great at the plate for a while, and he has struggled recently. And it is a little bit alarming that he struggled. He came in today with a 199 expected batting average and a 348 expected slugging percentage in September. Even though he's still not really he's not looking terrible out there, but he's 15 for his last 99 plate appearances. And so I don't know if he's going to be a everyday guy in the playoffs, but he's definitely somebody that can get some due to matchups. Maybe he can get some starts,
Who's
but
this again?
Trey Mancini.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I just want to make sure you said Trey Mancini. No, hey, I'm sitting here looking at different things while you're talking. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you're talking about, because in an article I'm writing, I'm talking about what will be the contribution of both Vasquez and Mancini. I think Mancini stands to actually have some key moments in this series if he's given opportunity. Vasquez, I don't even, it's like sometimes I'm being real honest. I don't even know why we traded for Vasquez. Like he's hardly in the game. He hardly plays. Most of his hits are singles. He hasn't been the impact bat that he's supposed to be. I mean, let's just face it. They haven't utilized him as much as they could. And I have no idea why. There's got to be a reason for it. I don't get paid by the Astros to make those decisions. And I don't know that I'm qualified to really answer my own question, but it's just Mancini, I think, is going to have some key moments. He's going to play a lot of left field. Yordan Alvarez is probably going to DH most of the time, except when Framber's pitching. That's what I'm thinking. That's what they've been doing a lot with them lately. I think they're going to be real careful with how much they play him in the field. And I think that's going to give Mancini a lot of opportunities in left field. And whether you like him as a left fielder or not, that's probably where it's going to be. Yuli is not going to not start a majority of the games. He's going to be out there. Maldonado gunned down JT Realmuto tonight.
First time he's been thrown out all year.
Yeah, he was 21 for 21. And then Maldonado, and everyone's like, oh, but he has negative defensive metrics. He's no longer, he's a detriment behind the plate. And Marty Maldonado is having his best offensive season when it comes to home runs and RBI. So this is a game that you have to go out and you literally have to play your best game every day in the playoffs. You can't go into slumps. You can't make excuses. All hands are on deck. You have everybody. So the Astros are going to do everything they can to win. They have great pitching. They have a very good lineup. And I think that things go in their favor more times than not. But you still have to go out there and play. You still have to beat them, because we know what happened in the World Series last year. We know what happened in frickin' 2019. And I think Astros fans are ready to have another World Series in Houston, because we're tired of the 2017 talk. We're tired of that being our only title. And I know the Astros players who are part of that team are also tired of that being their only title, because they believe that they've deserved and should have had more titles between now and then.
Speaking of then, Tony Russa has announced that he's going to be stepping down due to health issues. And he said, our record is the proof I did not do my job. And for the treatment and recovery process for the second health issue, makes it impossible for me to be the White Sox manager in 2023. So he's not going to be the manager for the White Sox. That White Sox team should have been a much better team than they were this year. But you know who's happy about that? The Guardians. The Guardians were able to be like, okay. And you know who was not didn't take advantage of that? The Twins. The Twins. And then you have Carlos Correa over there talking about him being Dior or something. And
He said if you want to pay that, basically when I go into a store and I see something I want to buy, I buy it. I see how much it is, I buy it. You know what my price is. If you want to purchase me, this is my price. I saw someone on Twitter, a guy that I follow from New York. I don't know his name. I can remember his at right now. He gave the top landing spots that he thinks where free agents are going to go. And he said he thinks Carlos is going to end up in LA with the Dodgers. And I was like, you know what? If the Dodgers offer him the most money, because he picked Trey Turner to go to Boston or somewhere over on the East. And then the other, I saw this thread. Someone said Carlos Correa to the Baltimore Orioles. And I thought that actually makes sense because they got Elias over there. They're building something. Carlos Correa could be what Manny Machado they thought was going to be for them. And he could be like the veteran anchor on that team with Adley Rushman. You got Mountcastle. You got Cedric Mullins. I mean, you've got a cast of characters.
Gunnar Henderson or whatever his name is.
Yeah. I mean, they've got, Gunnar, dude, that kid's a stud. So at the end of the day, he's going to go get the bag. He's going to go get what he wants, and that's fine. Some people said, maybe Carlos can sign with us next year. I'm like, he's not going to sign with us next year. He's not coming back, especially after they snubbed him.
Yeah.
Well, you have Jeremy Pena, but he wouldn't even probably talk to them. I mean, they would probably have to offer him $10 million over what other clubs are offering him for him to even think about it. And why would you do that? Because the spot's already filled. What?
Why would he have to pay $10 million more to sign back with the Astros?
The only way Carlos Correa would come back to Houston is if they gave him an insurmountable amount of money to come back because of the way they insulted him with the offer they gave him before he left. What I'm saying is, Eric, I'm making a hypothetical point. Okay. I'm not talking facts here. Come on, man. You don't have to overanalyze everything I'm saying tonight. You're literally all over everything I say tonight. No, I'm just saying it would have to be some ridiculous offer for him to even consider coming back because there's so many other places that I think.
No, I don't think he's coming back, right? Yeah.
No, he won't. People are like, I want him back. I'm like, oh, well, he's not back. I want Springer back. Well, he's not here. So,
right. All right.
And so AJ's not coming back either.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I wouldn't mind Jeff Luhnow and AJ coming back, honestly, but I know it's not going to happen. So tomorrow it's going to be Justin Verlander making his final regular season start. He's 17-4 with a 1.80 ERA versus Suarez. He is 10-6 with a 3.37 ERA with 127 strikeouts. So this is definitely going to be interesting matchups. Not a lot of people at Astros have faced Suarez, only Vasquez. He's batting 500 in 2 at-bats. And a lot of the Phillies have faced him a little bit. Harper. Then you have a lot of the people that have been traded over there. Segura has faced him. Castellanos, the guy who hits home runs during important events or something. So definitely this could be a definitely interesting game. Verlander needs to go out there and just put the stamp on his Cy Young Award season and just get ready for game 1 of the ALDS because that's going to be exciting. I can't wait. So that's all we got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Make sure you go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go ahead and make us your first listen, and go Stros.